Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles, when I have just returned from Frankfurt in Germany, where I attended EpicCon. Didn't have an awful lot of time free in the schedule to actually take a look around Frankfurt, that is, until we realised that Mr. Crow, Croatian World of Tanks community contributor, has actually been living in Frankfurt for the last 10 years, and so, well, we met him for lunch on Saturday and he took us into town, showed us the sights, including the Frankfurt Christmas market, which was spectacular. So he showed us the sights and we had a great time. Which is nice, because when you go to events like this, there isn't really an awful lot of time set aside to see anything that's outside of the event. What event are you talking about, Jingles? Well, EpicCon. It's the reason we're in Frankfurt in the first place. We're invited along as guests, along with several other fairly prominent people that you may have heard of, including NG Knight, the Hungarian cosplayer, who's particularly famous for her Supergirl cosplay, and also probably one of the most famous cosplayers of all, Chinese-American cosplayer Yaya Han. Funny story about Yaya Han, we kept bumping into her everywhere we went in Frankfurt. It didn't occur to us, because obviously we'd been invited along as guests to the convention. When I say me, of course I'm talking about myself and Rita. But the organisers had put all of the VIP guests, myself and Rita included, in the same hotel. I didn't realise until I was in reception, waiting for Rita on Friday morning. I spent a lot of time waiting for Rita. And I looked up to see this tiny little Chinese person standing at the desk, chatting to the concierge in what sounded to me like fluent German. I thought, that looks just like Yaya Han, but she's speaking German, it can't be her. It was her. Didn't realise until some of the EpicCon staff turned up right there and then and rushed over to reception and started talking to her in German, and she was replying to them in German, and they handed over a bunch of passes for her so she could get into the show and so on and so on. I thought, oh my god, that really is Yaya Han. She's a midget. I mean, she really is tiny. The Chinese aren't the biggest people in the world in the first place, but she'd be a hobbit even by Chinese standards. Well, anyway, we bumped into her a few times as I'm wandering around filming at the convention itself on the first day. And then we took a break for lunch and we went into, there's a sort of shopping plaza right next door to the convention centre in Frankfurt. It's called the Skyline Plaza. And we bumped into her in the queue for the cash point machine, and we were sitting down for a meal and she walked past us again. I swear I was being stalked by Yaya Han. So, that was amusing. The convention itself was spectacular, by the way, and I know the organisers were very, very worried because, well, on the Friday there were not a lot of people turned up. There must have been 500 or 600 at the most, and they were kind of worried the whole thing was going to be a massive flop. But they needn't have bothered. I said to them, look, it's always the same on a Friday. MCM London Comic Con is exactly the same. They run that on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and on the Friday there's hardly anybody there. In fact, if you go on the Friday, it's the ideal time to actually do some shopping with the exhibitor stands and all that sort of thing, and that's pretty much what we did on the Friday, as well as, took some pictures and video of all the cosplayers that turned up on the Friday. But the Saturday was just amazing. It was packed. So many people turned up, which was pretty impressive, because this is the first time that EpicCon have put a show on, Frankfurt being the first place they've done it, so they were very, very happy with the outstanding turnout that there was on the Saturday. Neither I nor Rita went in costume to EpicCon this time around, partly for practical considerations, because taking a costume along to a convention in another country basically means you need extra luggage, which costs more for the flight and so on and so on, but also because EpicCon was an anime convention, and I don't really have any anime costumes at all. So I just went along to film, but I really needn't have bothered, because people were turning up in costumes from all kinds of things, TV shows, comics, movies, you name it, not just anime. As you'll see when I put together the cosplay video for EpicCon, which will be appearing on the channel at some point this week. So, if I had taken a costume along, I could have dressed as anything. It wouldn't have mattered. I would have blended in perfectly in the crowd. As it happens, Rita does have a costume appropriate for an anime convention. It's one of those little blue and white Japanese schoolgirl sailor suits. Yes, I know, calm down, boys. No, she didn't wear it. Why didn't she wear it? It's the perfect opportunity. Never been to an anime convention before, you have an anime costume. Why didn't you wear it, Rita? Well, it was cold. It was fine in the convention hall, but we had an 800-metre walk from the hotel to the convention hall, and it gets pretty cold in Frankfurt in December. Well, it wasn't that cold. I mean, you know, I'm a big, rough, tough Northern European. I was wandering around outside with my jacket undone and everything, but Rita's a slightly more delicate Southern European flower, and so she was wrapped up in so many layers on the way to the convention centre that she looked like the abominable snowman. So I'm very sorry, but there's going to be no kawaii clickbait video of Rita wandering around in a Japanese schoolgirl outfit in this episode of Mingles with Jingles. But I did manage to convince her to get onto the, you know, I don't actually know what they're called. You know, you've seen them before. They're sort of, well, in fact, here we go. Here's Harley Quinn having a go on one of them at EpicCon. It's like an electric bull that you sit on and, well, you try to sit on, and at some point eventually it throws you off. You see them in TV shows. They have them in seedy bars in America. Well, I couldn't convince Rita to brave the German winter in the schoolgirl outfit, but I did manage to convince her to have a go on this thing. Come on, Rita. Do it for Portugal. Come on. Oh my god, she's falling off already. Yes, you are crap. And so she begged the guy for another go, and he said, yeah, alright, what the hell, go on. Go on, Rita, have another go. Get back on the horse, or, you know, the bull, whatever. I don't know why she's giving me a thumbs up. That was terrible. I mean, she immediately demanded to see the video, and she kept complaining, oh no, he was much, much easier on the person that went before me. Yeah, I don't think so, Rita. Really? I think you're just bad at it. Well, hey, she's better than me. At least she had a go. So, anyway, EpicCon was fun. I had a lot of fun. Rita had a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure everybody who went had a lot of fun. It was a very, very good convention. First of its kind. And hopefully, with the success of the first EpicCon, they'll be putting more on. So EpicCon was great. Getting to EpicCon, on the other hand, was an absolute bloody nightmare. Absolutely everything that could go wrong went wrong. Stuff actually started going wrong with the trip to EpicCon before we even left the house. Do you remember we're supposed to be going to Wargaming Fest this week in Moscow? Yeah, that's not happening anymore. Let's just say the visa application process was difficult, and we realized that if we were to go up to the visa application center, you have to hand over your passports, by the way. The Russian embassy take the passports off you and then post them back to you with the approved visa, assuming that they approve it in the first place. And we realized that we were not actually going to have our passports back in time for the trip to Frankfurt. So, and you know, that had all been paid for, so fantastic. It was a case of, well, you can do one, you can't do the other. And since EpicCon had already been paid for, we said, well, yeah, fair enough. I guess we're not doing Wargaming Fest. I mean, there were other reasons why we just weren't going to make it to Wargaming Fest in Moscow this year, but that was the big one. So, anyway, having been caught out before with my aborted visit to the French Tank Museum at Saumur in France, there was absolutely no way I was going to leave things to the last minute. Well, I didn't even leave things to the last minute when I was going to France, but the traffic conditions were so bad that even leaving 2 hours window of opportunity to catch the flight, I just wouldn't have made it to France in time. I certainly wouldn't have made it to the airport. This time around, I made sure that our travel arrangements were going to get us to Heathrow Airport 3 hours before the flight left. So if we ended up sitting in the airport for 3 hours, well, no problem. There's plenty to do in Heathrow. Sit down, have something to eat, have something to drink, read a book, whatever. We missed the first train by 4 minutes. The next train was an hour later. Well, that's all right. Still have a 2-hour window of opportunity to get to Heathrow and catch the flight to Frankfurt. The problem was that I had been up very, very late the night before, doing videos, making sure you guys had stuff to watch while I was away. And it was a pretty early start. So I kind of fell asleep. When you travel to Heathrow, because there's no direct train to Heathrow Airport, I hate flying from Heathrow because there is no direct train from where we live. What you have to do is you have to catch the train to a place called Woking, and then from there there's a bus link straight to the bus terminal at Heathrow Airport. Yeah. Well, I missed the stop at Woking, didn't I? I fell asleep for, it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. I literally just dozed off about 2 minutes before the train got to Woking, and woke up about 2 minutes, 3 minutes after the train left Woking. The next stop is London Waterloo, where the train terminates. So, it wouldn't have been so bad, but Rita was actually awake when the train went through Woking. But she didn't know that that's where we needed to get off. So I was like, oh no, fantastic. So we're at London. We catch the next train back to Woking. Unfortunately, we'd caught the express train on the way there. But the train on the way back stopped at every one-horse town on the way. So it took an hour to get from London back to Woking. And then, of course, we just missed the bus that was going to go to the terminal at Heathrow. And the next one wasn't for another hour. So I'm looking at my watch, and it's not going to happen. We were probably going to arrive at Heathrow 5 minutes after the plane was due to take off, and then of course you've got to go through security and get to the departure gate and so on and so on. Rita, however, refused to give up. She said, no, we're going to do it. We are not quitting. If it came to it, we were going to just jump onto the next flight to Frankfurt and pay for it ourselves. So we got to the terminal, and it was already 5 minutes after the plane was supposed to have left, so we just went straight to the Lufthansa desk and said, yeah, we've just missed our flight to Frankfurt. What time's the next flight? So the lady at the desk checked the details on the computer, said, actually, the flight's been delayed. If you run, you might be able to get through security and get it. So something else went wrong. The flight was delayed, but this time it worked in our favour. So we thought, yeah, fantastic. Now, we didn't have any baggage to check in, it was hand luggage only, so all we had to do was get through security and then to the departure gate, and we're on. And that's where our problems really started. I forgot to take my watch off when I was going through security, so I set off the metal detector. Fantastic. So, you know, that was my fault. I'm not blaming anybody. And you can't just say to security, yeah, it's okay, it's just my watch. I mean, you know, they have to do the full check. So they got the handheld metal detector out and they swept me down with that, and then they gave me the, you know, the body search and fine, and then they whipped out the chemical sensor and they swabbed my shoes and my fingers and so on, and then they had to obviously wait for the analysis of that, and I'm sitting there thinking, come on, move, I've got a flight to catch. But, you know, the guy's just doing his job, so fine. Waited patiently, got through that, thought, right, yes. Rita, of course, was through security. She's standing at the other side waiting for me. I rush forward, get my coat, get my wallet, get my bags. Hang on, where's one of my bags? My suitcase had set off the security sensors, so fantastic. So there's another delay, and I'm staring at the departure board, and it still says flight boarding. I've still got time. The only problem now, of course, is that the Asian couple who had gone through security ahead of me, their suitcase had also tripped the security sensors. So now I have to wait for a different member of the Heathrow Airport security staff to finish checking their bag. And I appear to have upset this person. I'm not entirely sure how. Obviously I was quite agitated because at this point the flight should have taken off 20 minutes ago and it could go airborne at any second. So I'm staring at my watch, I'm looking at the departure board, I'm getting quite anxious here, and this appears to have upset the security personnel, because she suddenly shouted out in a very loud voice, "Sir, step back away from the security desk." I was 5 feet away. It's not like I was crowding her personal space or anything. But yeah, from that point on, she had my card marked. She took her sweet time checking the bags of the people in front of us, and then when that was done, she decided she was going to punish me for daring to stand within 5 feet of the security desk while waiting to get my bag checked. She said, "I'm done here, sir, but we're waiting for a staff change, so you're going to have to wait for the next person to come along." And then she turned, walked 10 feet away, sat down in a chair, and watched me. And that pushed all of my buttons. And I was about to do something that I would almost certainly have regretted. Rita saw it coming, grabbed my arm, pulled me away, said, "Wait here," and she ran off and grabbed another member of the security staff, who it wasn't even his job to be checking bags, quickly explained the situation to him, and he was incredibly helpful. It wasn't even his job to take over from this bitch. And he came over and checked the bag for us, and we were done in 3 minutes. And we made it. We made it onto the flight an hour after it was supposed to have taken off. So, hurrah for German inefficiency. The Lufthansa flight, I don't know why it was late taking off, I don't care, but if it hadn't been late taking off, there is no way we would have made it in time. So, uncharacteristic German inefficiency saved the day. So, we made it to Frankfurt. We got to go to EpicCon. It was fantastic. Frankfurt is an amazing city. I really, really liked it. It's only the second place I've ever been to in Germany, which is quite bizarre considering I was in the Royal Navy 22 years and I've done exercises and operations with the German Navy many, many times, but we just never seemed to get to visit any German ports. Never been to Hamburg or any places like that. I've been to Germany before, twice, to Cologne for Gamescom. And, Cologne's great, don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to criticise Cologne. It's not as big a town as Frankfurt. But maybe it was just because every time I've been to Cologne, I've been in a hotel that was right in the middle of the tourist area. But the only thing that there ever seems to be to eat in Cologne is sausage. Bratwurst, currywurst, you name it, wurst. That's all the bars and restaurants ever seem to offer. That and various different hams. And, it's great, but I don't want to eat sausage breakfast, lunch and dinner. And it was quite a challenge, unless you actually get into a taxi and go way outside of the tourist area in Cologne. It's difficult to find anything that isn't sausage or ham. Frankfurt was the exact opposite, because I do like German sausage, it's great stuff, and I just couldn't find anywhere that sold it. It was bizarre. The sushi restaurants? Yep, Frankfurt has sushi restaurants. Italian restaurants, yeah, dozens of those, but you try to find a place that sells German sausage, good luck with that. Although there was one place inside the Skyline Plaza, the shopping centre, right next to the convention centre, that was called the best wurst in town. And it certainly seemed to be popular because of the queue. It was busy every time we walked past, a massive queue of people lining up to get their sausage. Unfortunately, there was no place to sit. It was like stand at the counter and eat. So, and we'd been on our feet all day at EpicCon, and we wanted to, when we were hungry, we wanted to find some place where we could sit down and eat. So, yeah, quite bizarre. Went to Germany and never tried the sausage. That's Frankfurt for you. Of course, one thing that Frankfurt does have that Cologne doesn't is more than one kind of beer. Which is another thing that people find very disappointing when they do go to Cologne for Gamescom. Cologne's quite famous for their beer, but they only have one kind. It's called Kolsch, and it's only brewed in Cologne. And they're very proud of it in Cologne. And it's not a bad beer, but it's a very, very... It's not what you expect of a German beer. Everybody's seen Oktoberfest and massive steins of beer, and you don't get that in Cologne. Exactly the opposite. Kolsch comes in very, very small, very tall and very thin glasses, almost like drinking beer out of a test tube. And they do that for a very, very good reason, of course, because the Kolsch is Kolsch is brewed in such a way that it tends to go stale very quickly if it's left in the glass. And so the glasses that you drink it from are tall and thin for a reason. It's the minimum of surface area exposed to the air, so it takes longer for the beer to go stale. And it's served in small portions, so it doesn't get time to go stale. One gulp and it's gone. The problem there, of course, is that you spend more time waiting for a waiter to come over and refresh your beer than you do actually drinking it. So, yeah. Well, there's none of that in Frankfurt. Right next door to the best wurst in town, in the Skyline Plaza in Frankfurt, there's a shop that sells 300 different kinds of beer. I thought, yes, this is the Germany we know and love. So, yeah, Frankfurt's great. It was tiring, though. I had a lot of fun, but it was tiring. I mean, I've already told you the trials and tribulations that we underwent trying to get to Frankfurt in the first place, and getting back was almost as bad. Everything was fine at the German end, but once we arrived in Britain, trying to catch a train on a Sunday, also there was a rail strike on, so services were cut short, and, well, let's just put it this way, getting the train back from Heathrow involved a lot of bus journeys. But we made it back, tired but happy. So I made myself some coffee, sat down, and I thought, I'm sure there's something I'm supposed to be doing on a Sunday. Oh, I still haven't done Mingles with Jingles. No. And so, yeah, I've been travelling for 10 hours, and I really need my beauty sleep. And that, therefore, is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it anyway, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.